My name is Ankit Jain. I welcome you all to my channel Take Journey with Ankit. Today's video is in the continuation of our Apex Trigger series where we are experiencing the different scenarios that can be asked or it is already asked in the interviews as well. Today's scenario that we will be discussing, it was asked in one of the Infosys interview as well, that you only have shared with me in the comment section of the YouTube or on the Telegram channel as well. So I'll be covering all those questions that has been asked. In case there's any new question that you found it is not covered in the series yet, do let me know in the comment section and I will try to cover that scenario again in the future session. Now without further delay, we can get started with the Apex Trigger scenario for today. So in case you folks like to have one-to-one connect with me, you can do that on the Topmate. On the Topmate, you will also find the different notes that I made it available for you folks. If you go to the Topmate, you will see the admin guide, which will help you to prepare your admin concepts. It will also help you to prepare for the admin related questions that can be asked in the interview. Moreover, it will also help you to prepare for your admin certification as well. Next guide, it is specifically designed for the interview preparation where you will find the multiple scenario based question, Apex related questions, admin related questions, LWC questions, flows, integrations. Moreover, you will also find the scenario based questions as well. Altogether, if I'm not wrong, there are more than 350 plus questions with the detailed explanation is available in this guide. You will also find the LWC notes and the code as well. In case you folks have already attended my bootcamp on the YouTube channel, can download those notes and the code that I have developed in that bootcamp from this link. Moreover, very recently I have published the very detailed book on the data cloud as well, that also you can download from here. Very soon I am planning to start the series related to the data cloud, which will cover all the basics related to the data cloud that you should know as a consultant. Now, without further delay, we can get started with the today's scenario as well. So what is the scenario for today that we will be experiencing? So the scenario says that on the contact object, we do have one field that is the primary contact. Whenever the user is creating any contact and user is checking that checkbox, we have to make sure that that contact is linked with the account. That is the first, and that is the only contact, that is the only primary contact which is linked with the account. So what we have to validate in this trigger scenario, one account does not have two primary contacts. For one account, there must be only one primary contact. In case the user is trying to maintain more than one primary contact for one account, then we have to give an error message. So this is the trigger scenario that we have to write. Again, it's not a very straightforward trigger, I would say. Definitely, there are few complexities. You must have the solid understanding about the collections as well as the SOQL and the relations between the objects to write down this trigger. So let's go and get started with writing down this trigger like we always do. Whenever we start the trigger, we always try to answer this 4 questions, which will help us to set the foundational knowledge for the trigger. So very first question that we have to answer, on which object the user is performing the operation. So again, if you are not clear, you can always rewrite the problem statement based on your understanding in the interview. And based on that, first try to answer these 4 questions, because these 4 questions will help you to decide what events that you will be using in your trigger. So the first question, what object that user is performing, based on this problem statement, the user will be creating or maintaining the new contact. Right here, they are talking about the maintenance. They are not explicitly mentioned whether the insertion or the updation. So again, when you are in the interview, you can explicitly ask the interviewer for related to the maintenance, whether it's an insert operation or the update operation. For this trigger scenario, I will be considering the both insert as well as the update. So what I can say that on the contact object, user is performing the insert as well as the update operation. Now the next question that we have to answer, what type of trigger will be applicable in this scenario? As we have to perform the validations on the record, to perform the validation, we will always go for the before trigger, right? And as we are going for the before trigger now, and we have already decided which context variable that we will be using, sorry, which DML operations that user is performing, this leads me to the fourth question, which context variable that you will be using here. As again, as we are performing the insert operation, for that we will be using the trigger.new, and we are performing the update operation, we will be using the trigger.new and the trigger.old map to compare the new and the old value. Now this leads me to the this helped me basically to go and figure it out what all different events that are applicable in this trigger scenario. So basically in this particular scenario, I will be writing down the problem statement or the solution considering the two events. One is the before insert and second one here is the before update. Now let's go and build this trigger with this logic. Again, to do that, I am switching myself to the editor. On my editor, I will go and create one trigger. So here again, I'm taking the option of Control Shift P. I am creating the Apex trigger. Here I am taking the name of the Apex trigger as, for example, check primary contact for account. Okay, so I am giving more logical name to the trigger. Again, as I said, this trigger should be available on which object? So this trigger should be available on the contact object. So here I am selecting the contact object. What events should be applicable for this trigger? Before insert and the before update. So here I am defining the logical events before insert as well as the before update. Now let me go and write down the code here because I want my logic should execute only in the scenario of before trigger and for the insert and the update operation, not the other operations that user is doing. So to do that, we will try to follow all the good practices, different good practices that we have already discussed in the part 1 of this video or in the initial video of this series. So do make sure that you check that out. Here again, I'm trying to follow all the good practices. First, I am checking whether the context here will be the before context. And after that, here I'll be checking the different types of operations that user is performing. Here I go and put if the operation here is the insert operation, right? Or the operation here will be the update operation. Because in both the scenarios, I want to execute the different method or different logic. But again, we don't write down the business logic inside the trigger. So what I'll be doing, I will be creating the helper class here. So here I go take the option of Apex class. I am giving the name of that class here as an helper so that I can easily understand for this trigger, this is a helper class. Again, one quick tip, folks, many times I found that whenever the question has been asked in the interview, people generally write down the logic inside the trigger just to save the time. Don't do that. Take some additional time. Make sure that you are using the helper class and putting your business logic in the helper class. This actually gives the impressions to the interviewer that you are following all the good practices whenever you are building the trigger. Right. So here again, I am creating the two methods based on the context. So my first method here will be the before insert that I am creating. And another method that I am creating here is the public static void before update method. I will be invoking this method from my trigger now. So I am putting the class name dot before insert. And in the scenario of insert, just now we discussed that we do have to use the context variable that is the trigger dot new. Right. Similarly, in the case of update, I will be using the context variable here. First is the trigger dot new and second one here is the trigger dot old map so that I can go and compare the values based on the variables that we are passing. Let me go and modify my trigger, my method definition to go and accept the value. Here I am passing the trigger dot new. Trigger dot new data type is list. My trigger, it is written on the contact object. So here I'll be putting the list of contact and I am giving the variable name here as the new contact list. Similarly, for the update here, I can go and put the list of contact because what I am passing first value as the trigger dot new. So here again, I am putting the new contact list. And the second parameter that I am passing here is the map so that I can go and compare the old value with the new value. That is the old contact map. Right. So this is how I am writing down my before insert trigger and the before update definition. Now the next thing that I will do, I will go and write down the business logic for the before insert as well as the before update. One more thing that I have done, folks, before solving this problem statement, I have already created one custom field on my contact object. With the help of that custom field, I can go and identify the user is when maintaining the contact, whether the end user is selecting this contact as the primary contact or not. So here I have created one custom field on the contact object. Data type of that field is checkbox, and this is the API name of the field here. Okay, now what I will check, my first check here should be before I go and process anything, right? I have to first check whether the contact that user is inserting or updating, that contact user have marked as primary or not. Moreover, I have to go and also make sure that while maintaining the contact, user is also selecting the account or not. Okay, so I will be putting the two checks here while iterating over it. So here I can go and start iterating over my contact list. As I said, the two checks here will be check if the contact is primary and the contact is linked to account. How I can check whether the contact is primary or not? To check the contact is primary, here I will be writing down the con dot. I'll be using the variable that I have defined here for the primary contact. If con dot primary contact is true and the contact is attached to the account. So how I can check that? By using the string dot is not blank. What is the relationship field that I do have for the contact and account? If you come here again to the fields and relationship, let me go and remove this. I do have the relationship available between the contact and the account, and my relationship field here is the account ID. So here I am saying that if the account ID is not blank and the primary contact is checked, then and then only I have to go and do the further checks. So to do the further checks, what I am doing here is I am storing those account IDs, right? I am storing those account IDs that I do have into the one set, so that as a part of next step, I can write down the queries and get the primary contacts for those set. So let me go and do that. Here I am defining one set of ID. Here I am giving the name as an account ID set is equal to new set of ID. So whatever the contacts which are satisfying this criteria, for those contacts, I am storing the accounts into this set. So here I can go and put that contact account ID. What does this mean? That these are the account IDs that user is maintaining, where the primary contact checkbox is checked as true. As a part of next step, what I am doing before I execute any further logic, the very first thing that I am doing here is here I am putting whether this set is empty or not empty, because I have to write down my business logic only and only when the set is not empty. Then only it is makes logical for me to go and execute further. In case there are no accounts which is satisfying this criteria, then I should not go and check anything further. Now, as a part of next step, what I will be doing, I will be writing down the query on the contact object, which what this query will check in case there are any records which is already having the primary contact linked to the account. Right. So what I will be doing, I will be writing down the query on the contact records and check if there are any primary accounts linked to the contact. Right, which primary accounts? These primary accounts that I have already stored into this collection. So here I can go and use that. Like we discussed, whenever you are writing down any queries, always try to use the for SQL loop. So I'll be doing the same thing for contact con. Here I'll be putting select, let's say ID comma. I am putting here the account ID. I am also making the query on the primary contact field, right, from the contact object. Again, which records I am interested here in? I am interested here in those records. Let me go and put down here from contact, where the account ID is available in this set and the primary contact checkbox is true. I am interested here in only those contacts which are satisfying this criteria. In case there are accounts which are satisfying this criteria, what I will do, I will go and store those accounts in the separate contact. So out of this, there are few accounts which already have the primary contact. That's what we want to make a classification here. So here again, I am putting another set, that is account IDs already have primary contact. Okay, I'm giving the more logical name so that by reading the variable name, you understand what we will be storing here, right? So in this one, what I will be storing those contacts, those account IDs, which is already having the primary contact. So here again, I can go and put account ID. right? Now there are two sets are ready with me. One is the set first with the help of which I figured out based on the operation that user is performing, which contacts user have marked primary account is equal to true. Out of this, I'm trying to figuring it out what or how many accounts which is already having the primary contact. Now I got that result from here. What is the next step that I will be doing now? As a part of next step, again, I start iterating over my primary contacts that I am receiving one more time. For contact con of new contact list. Again, my checks will be the same before I execute any logic. So I am putting the same check here. In my check, what I am saying here is, in my check, what I am putting here is now very important. I will be whenever I'll be processing any account ID, I will be checking whether that account ID is already present in that set or not. So if the account ID it is already present in that set, then we can say that for that account primary contact already exists. So how we can check whether the account is already present in that set or not? Which method we use to validate whether the entry is already present in the set or not? We always go and use the contains method. And here I'll be putting the con dot account ID. If it is already present, then what I am doing, I am giving an error message, and my error message says that one primary contact is already linked to this account. My error message says one primary contact is already linked to this account. Right? Most of the times we generally solve the problem statement till here. And the friend who have told me that he tried to attempt the solution and he have already solved the problem statement till here, but still what he mentioned to me was interviewer was asking another scenario that in that contact list, imagine that we do have the two primary contact. There was no existing primary contact for that account, but in the list that I am sending to you, in that list there is a possibility that user is putting the two primary contacts for the same account. If that is the case, how you will handle that scenario, right? In the same list, there are two primary contacts for the one account. Initially, there was nothing. How you go and handle that scenario? So to handle that scenario, we have to go and put one additional check. So to put that additional check, what I will be doing, whatever the contacts for which I am checking the primary contact for the first time, I will get that contact stored into another set. I will get that account ID stored into the another set. And in case I am getting the another contact, primary contact for that same account, I will give the error message. Okay, let's see how I can go and implement it. Again, to do that, I am defining one more set here, set of ID. Let's say I am putting here the set here as current batch account ID. In my current batch, whatever the account ID that I will process, I will get that account ID stored in that collection. Okay, now the next time, whenever the new account ID that I am processing, right, which is satisfying this criteria, then I will give the error message. So here again, I am putting, let me put the here else if. Here I am checking in that set now, do contains the account ID, right? If that set already contains the account ID one more time. If that is the case, then what I'll be doing, again, I'll be putting the similar kind of an error message. One primary account is already linked to this account. Or if you want to put another meaningful message, you are happy to do that. But in case that is not the scenario, you are checking for the primary contact for the first time. So what you have to do, it does not contains here. You are checking it for the first time. Then what you have to do in that set, you have to go and add that primary contact. So here I can go and say something like this. I am adding that primary contact here. So first check, it will check whether the in my database for that account, the primary contact is already available or not. My second check, it will check for that account in the list that invoke my trigger, it is having the two primary contacts or not. Okay, so this is how we are making sure my trigger is validating both the scenarios. right? So this is how we have written our logic for the before insert. Now similarly, we have to go and write down our logic now for the before update. But in the case of before update, I want my business logic should execute only when either user have changed the primary contact or account ID. Then and then only it is logical for me to go and execute it, right? So my first check here will be when I'm iterating over this contact list in the update scenario, I will be getting the old contact first. So let me go and get the old contact from my map. So this is my map. Whenever we have to get the value from the map, we use the get method, and here I am passing the key. So what I will get from here is the old contact. What I am comparing here is if the user have made any of these changes, right? If the primary contact is changed, so is not equal to old contact dot primary contact underscore underscore C. If that is the case, or the account ID is changed. So here I am putting con dot account ID. It is not equal to old contact dot account ID. If that is the scenario, then and then only I should go and do the further check. As a part of further check, what I have to make sure that the new changes that user have done, in that new change they are setting the primary contact value as true, like we have checked here, and also the account ID is not blank. Then and then only my business logic will be more correct. So here I can go and add that additional criteria. As I am using here the account ID set, so let me go and define that set as well. Set of ID, that is the account ID set, is equal to new set of ID. Right now, the next business logic that I have to write, it will be the exact same thing that I need to do in case I found any accounts in that set. In case nothing has been changed, then it is not logical to go and execute the business logic here as well. So kind of a repeated logic that I have to write for the update. Now there is one thing that I can do. Either I can copy the same thing and paste it here. But again, that's not going to be the good practice because I will be repeating the logic. So to avoid that, what I'm going to do here is I will be creating another method. Okay, public static void. What that method will do, it will validate the primary contact. Okay, now rather than I go and write down the business logic repeatedly, I am simply removing that business logic from here and I am putting that business logic here. Now the next thing, I will go and figure it out to run that business logic, what all the different inputs that I required from my previous set, right? So the first thing that I required from my previous set was the account ID set. So let's go and define that as an input parameter. That I want here is the set of ID, account ID set. What is the next thing that I required from here? Again, this is another set that I have defined. Again, I can simply move the definition because I'm not using that set here anyway. So I can simply move the definition of that set from here to here. So I am good with this set as well. What is the next check? That next thing I required? I required the new contact list as well, right? So here again, I am accepting the second parameter, that is the list of contact, new contact list. This is the second parameter that I required to execute my process. Right? Again, it's a good practice to define all the collections at one place rather than putting it staggered at anywhere. So I'm again shifting it and putting my another collection at the top. Just a cosmetic change. That's what I am doing here. Right? Now my method is good. What I can do, I can simply go and invoke that method from my before insert. And there are two parameters that needs to be passed. First parameter here I am passing is the account ID set because my method is expecting that. And the second parameter that I can pass here is the new contact list. Here again, I need to do the exact same thing in the before update as well. right? Here after my for loop, I am simply invoking that method. So this is how I can avoid writing down the same logic again and again at the two different places. Again, I am iterating. It is not very much straightforward. You might have to revisit the video multiple times to get the proper understanding. But in case you got the understanding from this video, please let me know in the comment section anything which is not clear to you. You are struggling, again you can let me know. I will try to explain in more detail in the comment section if any part of the video is not clear. Okay, now let me go and try to deploy this. So my trigger helper method is created. As my helper method is created, I can go and try to deploy this trigger as well. Meanwhile, both are deployed. Now let's go to the org and we will do our validation whether it is working as expected or not. So here I go, navigate to the application. I'm navigating to the account. I will try to create the account with the two primary contact, and the expectation here is I should get the error message. So let me click on the new button. Here I am giving the account name as the primary contact trigger learning. Okay. This is the first I am creating the account, and for that account I will try to create the two primary contact. So while creating the first primary contact, I should not get any error message that is expected. So let's go and see. So here I am putting the contact as the first contact test and putting this as the Mr. And here you can see this is a checkbox that I have created. I am checking that checkbox, clicking on save. This is good. It has been created successfully. But if I'm trying to create more than one now as a primary contact, so let me go and try to do that. Second contact test contact. I am moving the test to the bottom, and this time if I go and check the primary contact, the expectation here is I should get an error message. So if I click on the save button here, you can see that the expected error message is coming. One primary contact is already linked to this account. Right? If you go and try to uncheck this checkbox, click on save, then it's well and good. You can create multiple, but you can only have one at a time. I hope you folks found this video helpful, got few learnings from this video. If yes, do try to attempt the assignment as well. What is the assignment? We have is primary checkbox field available on the opportunity contact object. We have to make sure that only one primary contact is marked for each opportunity. In case more than one primary contact is marked for each opportunity, then we have to give the error message. Like we always do, we try to answer this 4 questions. If you are attempting it, this assignment, please put your answer in the comment section as well. The first question that you have to answer, on which object the user is performing the operation. In this scenario, the user is performing the operation on the opportunity contact role object. What kind of operation that user is performing? So here I am assuming that when you write down the trigger, write it for both insert as well as update. What type of trigger you will use? Again, you have to perform the validation. So here you will go for the before trigger. And the context variable, again, you are using the both insert and the update. So for the insert, you will be using the trigger.new, and for the update, you will be using the trigger.new and the trigger.old map. This will help you to define what all the different applicable events for your problem statement. Right? Do try to implement this trigger. If you do so, post your solution again in the comment section. I hope you are finding this trigger bootcamp series helpful. If you want me to cover your trigger scenarios, you can always let me know in the comment section as well. And do check out these books which are available on the Topmate. These books might help you to speed up your journey for the interview preparation or to speed up your journey to revise the Salesforce concepts as well. Thank you. Have a good time. Bye bye.